From Rule 62 Studios in Bossier City, Louisiana, this is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. Happy Valentine's Day, Matt.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you're with me here today.
I'm my favorite Valentine.
Rude.
I hadn't got to you yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, season 2, episode 6, 5, whatever. We'll put it in the comments, and you'll be able to tell where you're at. But today's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's, Jill.
Hey, thanks. Right back at you.
And so with Valentine's Day, I think that it would be appropriate that our topic of the day be the person we love the most. It's generally ourselves.
Me.
And no, we'll get to that in just a second. I also have some stuff I want to read out of 12 and 12 that does pertain to love and relationships and stuff like that. But before we do all that, I want to remind our listeners that we can be found now on Apple Podcasts, not just on Spotify. And we're about 50% now Apple Podcast and 50% Spotify. We're cutting it right down the middle. So what you do is if you have an iPhone, you swipe down, you type in POD, podcast app pops up, you hit it, you go to search, and when you go to search, type in The Grouch and the Brainstorm, eventually it'll auto-populate. You'll see our logo, click on it, click follow, and every time we release one of these episodes, guess what? You will be notified on your phone unless you have notifications turned off on your iPad or iPhone or whatever Apple device you use for notifications. But with that being said, I also want to remind everybody, we ain't got an email in a long time. Have not gotten anything. So, G and B, Bossier, Bossier, at gmail.com. It's G and B Bossier, Bossier, at gmail.com. Send us an email, send us a text message, message on Instagram. My name is Mike Walston. I can be found on Instagram. You'll see me somewhere in there. You'll see our logo, but really like hearing from. Now, I did hear from a couple of folks about some about one of our latest episodes, and I'm not sure which one, but I'm gonna throw this in here and find out where. What did I hear? And I'm going to find that out here in just a second. Okay. So Amy wrote, okay, just listen to your podcast, the latest podcast, and I like what everybody said about anonymity. But I kept waiting for someone to talk about the reason the writers gave in the foreword to the first edition. And Matt, I know you're keen.
I got it.
You're keen on that. I can tell you're not lost.
I'm on it. I mean, everybody turned to me to get the straight.
Each other with,
Y'all want me to just make something up?
Amy talks about. Amy's going to tell us here.
Okay, good. Thank you, Amy.
They talk about being too few to handle all the calls for help, right? That is true. It does say that we're too few in numbers and they'd be overwhelmed and somebody may not get help or the right people or something. But that is exactly what it says. So the initial reason for it, for the tradition, and the baseball catcher incident with a question mark. And then she showed me a little page where she had highlighted some stuff out of there. And I'm going to tell you, so, obviously we just kind of kick things around that we've heard over the years. None of this is really definitive, except for if you work the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, you seem to be able to stay sober for a day, right?
Sure.
But I actually had this question myself, right? So I'd read, it's either Pass It On or AA Comes of Age, or no, it's not AA Comes of Age. That's a hard book to read. It's Pass It On or Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. And I read the book, and it talks about the catcher incident.
That's Pass It On, because I read that.
Okay, so it talks about that in there. And it does say that's why we actually have the tradition. Like, it actually went to print after that. And
okay.
So the way I always understood it from the point of reading that book on is the reason we actually took action and did something was because of this. And the original reason is because we were too few in numbers to be able to, identify ourselves singly, because there's just not one sober alcoholic is going to have a hard time with 300 drunk alcoholics, And so that is the way I saw it. So that, good observation, And some of these guys out there, they really do pay attention. They pay.
That's
really,
awesome.
Really good attention. So I'm glad I'm glad I can help educate the public. Yeah,
By letting me answer that question.
my Matt, my resident big book expert
That's
over
right.
here, can do that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a few things, though, today. We're going to talk about loving yourself. We're going to talk a little bit about relationships. And the big book, actually not the big book, the 12 and 12, my reference to anybody who's, this is a sponsored thing, But if I had a sponsee that was single and ready to mingle, maybe I would probably direct them to page 117 in the 12 and 12. Because if you really are looking for something that's going to be safe for your recovery and not maybe, that talks about it, and I'll read it later. We'll talk about that later on. But my most important part of my life or my relationship life is my relationship with God, and my being able to forgive myself came at a pretty hard. Whoa, Jill just popped her nose on the microphone. If y'all heard that,
That was the sound of her nose shattering over the mic.
just don't let the blood get all over my microphone, please, Jill. But learning to forgive myself for a lot of things that, looking back, there was a lot of things that the older I get, the more I look back and go, that's stupid. Do y'all do that? That just is so stupid,
Absolutely.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever why I did that. So I can only imagine what
I
it was.
did that today. What are you talking about looking back?
guess
Like
you're
earlier this morning, dude.
But I can only imagine what it was like for the people that were with me when
Oh,
I did
dear
that.
Lord.
And,
for sure.
and everybody in the restaurant or on the airplane,
Of jail.
jail, rehab, doc dentist office. Yeah, but I look back and I say how stupid. But I guess my biggest thing is the 12 and 12 also talks about not jumping off into morbid thought, deep, looking back and with morbid regret and going, oh man, I was such a bad. I can't do that.
Well, no, rumination isn't healthy for anybody.
There we go. Where I knew there was a $12 word in there somewhere.
You didn't ask me for a $12
What the hell's
word?
rumination?
Oh,
To dwell on the past,
Okay,
to ruminate, get into depressive thoughts.
I got you.
I think that was what was cool about coming in AA, though, was you could hear people talk so matter-of-factly about the past, and it wasn't emotional anymore. It was they had dealt with it, and it was just a fact, but it wasn't an emotional attachment to it, and that was really cool to see coming in there as people talking about this stuff in their life, and it's just like, yep, that was it, and that's what I did.
Yeah. And that's what happens.
I was like, I hope I can be like that, like, because I was so ashamed and like, what have I done, and I'm getting there, 5 years later. Some things I still struggle with, but for the most part, I've gotten there, So
Yeah. Takes time.
And expecting those people around you to forgive you the way you forgive yourself is probably just, I guess that would be at the point of where some of that stuff's just none of my business. Expect what my expectations of other people to do are just, because I guess after about 90 days sober, I felt like I should be treated differently. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so when I wasn't, I would look down at myself, on myself, and say, what am I doing? Why would I even be doing this sober thing if people aren't gonna, you know what I mean? Does that make any kind of sense at all?
I literally told my therapist when I got to rehab, this how
therapist?
arrogant. Well, I had probably a team on me, but
Mississippi.
But I told her, I said, look, this is arrogance at its finest. Haven't had a sober breath in 25 years, and I'm like, look, I'll give this crap a year. If it doesn't work, I'm out. I'm going back. How cocky of that. She's like, I know she's thinking, could you just do it today? Let's try it today. So, yeah. But that was my attitude. It was like, this isn't going to work. and I'm going to be back out there. So,
Well, I think a lot of folks, especially me, I'm a skeptic because when you walk into the rooms of AA and you see a bunch of stuff on the walls and you hear people, the word program comes out of people, well, I'll work my program, the program this, the program that. You don't even know what the program is or what the hell the program means. You just hear about this program, and then you think, all these people just sit around talking about the program. It's kind of like one of them shows where people sit around and talk about the ship that's going to come get them, or, the
Yes,
kind of
absolutely. Everything, all the jibber jabber.
None of that shit makes sense.
None of it.
So, program of Alcoholics Anonymous is the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. The sooner you get a sponsor, the sooner you don't have to worry about what the word program means.
Yeah.
So, Matt, let me ask you this: do you love yourself today?
For the most part.
Not physically. Not physically.
That I don't want. That's a whole other episode. I don't want to get into that. Thanks, Mike. He's over there laughing. Y'all can't hear him. He set me up on that one. And Jill and her broke nose are over there laughing. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I don't even know that the word love would be used, but I tolerate myself a little better today. I'm able to, for the most part, I can look in the mirror and go, okay, I know where my heart's at on everything. I know what I've tried to do and honestly tried to do. And when I'm short on something or not where I need to be, I'm usually aware of it for the most part, or I've done something that, would cause me to, in the past, just go nuts. And I kind of can go, okay, I need to work on this or whatever. So I'm kind of more comfortable with it, maybe as a word. I don't know that love would be the word, but and not that you don't have moments of stuff like that rumination, that big word that Jill used. I think maybe I hope nobody else does, but sometimes I do. And I think things will not go right, or things don't go the way you want them to go, or you expect them to go. There's that word again. And, I sit there and think, well, it's just because I am what I am, and that kind of bull crap. But I usually get out of that pretty quick. And, for the most part, I'm all right with the guy. I don't know if I love that dude, but I'm all right with him. So,
well, I mean, and there might be a phase, I'm guessing here, but where you go from liking yourself to loving yourself.
Absolutely.
So imagine, and this is, I'm not talking about me. This is kind of a nobody scenario that I'm coming up with, but your family don't know what to do with you. They just don't. You're just so out of control. You're destroying everything, and you may or may not have a job left, right? You've tried everything you can to stop drinking. You're at the end of your rope. I can imagine that some people come into this thing really self-loathing.
For sure.
And then we start telling them the problem is you. It all centers in your mind, and you're selfish, self-centered, self-seeking. All the stuff we tell them when they get there. And the truth is, even if all that is true, it doesn't make me feel any effing better.
Right. It's like compounded shame, guilt.
And take that a step further too. I think you were the one told me that on doing a 4 and 5 with a sponsee that they write their defects. But I think that was you that also makes them write good qualities or whatever.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. They're assets.
Yeah, there you go.
Assets and defects.
Well, what's funny is like I could sit down and write those 2 lists. I wouldn't believe any of the assets. I'd believe every daggone one of the faults.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why can I believe this, but I don't believe that? You know what I mean?
And that's when you got here or now?
That's been the first few years of getting in here, and I realize I do things better today, and I'll accept that I do, but I don't know why I'm so critical of myself and my own junk, and sometimes I have to let it go. But then the other people.
You got a birthday tomorrow?
I was waiting
we'll talk about that too.
Yeah. Okay. I heard a rumor. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's just something I've dealt with. I don't know if other people deal with it, but just real critical. And then I'm around people all the time that are new in sobriety and they're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, give yourself some grace. And I'm thinking, why don't you do it to yourself? But I don't,
And we talked about that a couple times on this show.
It's easier said than done. I had the same problems. I mean, when I came in, I hated myself and I hated everything. I was not okay. And it has taken me many, 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 many years to change from hating myself to loving myself. And it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen in a couple of years. It took a lot of, first of all, challenging, my beliefs, my false and irrational beliefs, and changing my thought patterns, which took a lot of outside work because nothing had changed. I just was sober. I still thought I was a loser and I was stupid and I was a piece of shit, and we'll just go on and on and on with all of that. But how did I change that? I mean, that meant changing everything, just like recovery is. I had to change my thought processes. I had to change, what am I thinking of? I had to do something different. That meant like, if I kept on doing the right thing, I took away the lying, I took away the manipulation and all the bullshit, I started to feel better about myself. And over time, like even going back to get my master's and realizing for the first time at 40 years old that I can make straight A's. I'm actually smart. And I was like, wow. And so that made me love myself just a little bit more, and just being able to accomplish things and like have a savings. I mean, I know that sounds like ridiculous, but those are all the little things that I had to do over time at a very slow pace, because that's just how my recovery's been. It's been sometimes slowly. It's been very slow for me.
It does. And, I guess I don't mean to make that sound like it was so horrible what I said, but it's like, it's just stuff that I deal with. 5.5 years into it. It's sometimes I have that old junk and I fight through it and I just go, what am I going to do right now? And then I force myself into something positive to work on some of that stuff, even in a small way. And I go, well, you know what? I got up and made a list and I crossed one of them things off the list. So I'm not as bad as I was yesterday. And
you're right. It's progress, not perfection.
Sure.
And you can't change overnight 20 something years of just tearing yourself apart and being your own worst critic overnight. It's going to take a while. And Mike, I know, is an employer, and you deal with people work wise. And like, I would have to call people in and do evaluations with them. And like the guys that I dealt with, it always went better if you call them in person and go, look, man, this is what you do good, A, B, C. Yeah.
We talk about that for a few minutes. And I go, here's what I need you to work on. They get their mentality totally flips from I'm in trouble to I do 3 things good and 1 bad. So let's fix that.
What's interesting is, I've done intake for so long in treatment centers, and they remember them asking me, what are your 3 strengths? And I was already crying, like laying on this table because like I just couldn't lift my head. And I remember crying, and she asked me that, and I just started sobbing even more. I couldn't name one. Till even today, if I go for an interview, they ask me my weaknesses. And this is not to sound grandiose by any means. I have a hard time finding weaknesses, and I can name so many strengths. So you can see how that's changed over, the years. But it didn't come as quick as I wanted it to. And I'm still very harsh on myself because I've got to watch out for trying to be perfect, because I'm still trying to be better than I was.
And also tie that in the part of me, the people pleasing type, where, I got to have everything perfect. I've got to be this way with this person, this way with that. I figured out in sobriety, I'm just me, dude. If you can like it, don't like it, I don't care. I'm not going to drive myself crazy anymore. I can't be all this stuff. And the more I'm like that, the more chill and just the way life rolls along, So
yeah, it's just to the point where it's just exhausting. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
What? I'm just going to do what I do.
I've learned to nicely stay out of crap that I used to get involved in. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't involve something or a major decision that's going to affect me, I've learned to let that stuff roll off and just kind of roll on by. And man, that's been great.
It's letting go.
And some of this stuff can be attributed to not enough sleep or not enough rest. And so you got to think about this. You stay up late at night because your mind's racing around thinking about all this stuff that probably isn't any of your business anyway. and then you don't get enough rest at night, and then you get up the next day and you're tired and you
Cranky.
You know.
Yes.
So it makes me think of the old adage, halt.
Yeah.
You know, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. They tell us not to be all four at the same time. Or I've even heard people say in meetings, if you got two of those, you need to fix them really quick. You know, if you're hungry, eat. If you're angry, you know, you got to figure out a way to get over that.
Absolutely.
Big book will tell you how. But
absolutely. And that's not the only thing. I mean, like mental illness can tell you all kinds of negative things.
Yeah, I know. And you know, I'm glad you brought that up because. And I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Is there one that tells you good things?
I don't know. I don't think there is.
I've just never, or is that called narcissism?
It's definitely not. Most probably. But anyway, never mind.
I've never thought of that, Mike, till you just said that.
Well, I've been in places where people hurt, you know, and man, I am not poking fun at all. But I've been in places where people heard voices tell them to do bad things.
It's always bad. Yeah.
But I've never heard them in places where voices tell them to do good things.
Well, if it is, they are malingering.
What's that mean?
That means they're faking.
So
auditory hallucinations will be
why we got Jill on.
Will be
on
command
the payroll,
type,
right?
and they'll be negative. In a sense, when it comes to those command type kind of, they're not they never tell you to like, oh, hug yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. You were a good boy today.
Yeah.
But I mean, they never tell you to go mow the grass or wash the car either.
They're always like, kill, you know, whatever.
Well, yeah, persecutory. And so, yeah, they'll tell you to hurt someone or hurt yourself. But no, if they're not positive at all.
Okay. I follow you.
I deal with that on a daily basis.
There really isn't one that does the exact opposite of the, and that, I mean, I've often wondered that because I've never, you know, or maybe I don't know. I'm not even going to guess on that. I just know that I've been in places where people were hearing stuff, right? And I know it's real. I believe them. I believe they believe the voices that are talking to them. And then these things that they tell them to do are hideous.
Yes. Absolutely. They're horrible.
Yeah.
I've talked to recently somebody that was like that, and like they're looking past like over my shoulder. They're talking to something standing behind me, even though me and them are standing there a foot apart. They're out. You know, it's very weird, and there's no doubt they believe it's real. I don't know what it is. I don't never had that, but it's crazy.
Well, I can imagine that would really mess with someone, especially after they get well.
Yeah. Well, and that, I mean, it is a problem because it tells them things constantly. And it's really hard for people with mental illness. I mean, they have a whole nother factor playing into their recovery. Something negative that may be holding them back, dragging them down.
Do you think that might have been one of the things that caused them to use to begin with was silencing these voices?
I think, absolutely. That's why it's so common for people with mental illness to have substance abuse disorders as well. And that's why they created what the co-occurring dual diagnosis facility.
Yeah.
Is because they pretty
Matt's
much
familiar.
Go hand in hand.
Been there, done that. Mike likes to egg me on, guys. I don't know if y'all know this. But.
So let me skip up a little bit. So when you say dual diagnosis, you mean whatever they have plus the addiction?
Yes. So primary will always be the substance abuse when you go into these facilities. Secondary will be mental health. Absolutely.
Okay. So what if, and you're educating us all, actually, anybody who's listening. If you have a gambling addiction and an alcohol addiction, is that dual diagnosis or is that just?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's CORE in Shreveport. It's one of the top gambling facilities in the nation.
I've actually went there and listened to people tell their stories before.
Yeah.
So it's not just grouped into addiction. There is actually a dual diagnosis there.
I'm not sure exactly what they have there, but if you have, I don't know what they treat I don't know if it's co-occurring, but if you do have those two, yes, that would be co-occurring.
I got you. So I can see where someone that has, man, that's a lot going on.
And there is a lot going on. And especially, not only that, like when someone comes to the facility and they're hallucinating or they're hearing voices, whatever it may be, like you have to get the drugs out of your system first to diagnose someone with a mental illness because they can mimic each other. So a drug-induced psychosis can be the same, can look the same as schizophrenia.
So the person that I dealt with on this, that was on day 4 of being in a hospital. So there was nothing in their system, basically, So that was, and that continued and actually got worse as the substances wore off.
And this with the voices?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean,
so it was more. I don't know. I'm not by any stretch.
it still could be that. Some people have, it's permanently a thing with them. But anyway, yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Ooh, that's my motto. I meant like take care of it right now. Because I am literally turning into a 5-year-old little girl.
Well, and I've also heard the word hangry. Y'all ever
Yes.
heard that?
Yeah, like eat a Snicker and
Well, I guess there was a commercial about it at one time. Wasn't
a
there?
sticker commercial.
It's like a werewolf turns into a grandma or something. Yes. I say that in jest. I'm a grandpa, like so, but yeah. So there's hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and they say don't do any of those really at the same time, especially. But do y'all ever find yourself still? Have y'all ever used the term? How about that?
Oh yeah,
all the time.
I've been pissed before and realized I hadn't eaten all day, and then didn't sleep good the night before, and I start thinking back, and I'm like, yeah, I probably need to calm down, So yeah.
Well, we're human. Of course, we're going to get hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. It happens, and I know that I'm probably not in a good place if I'm any of them.
Have you ever met that one person that's always all of them?
I feel like if the worst for me is hungry, and also tired.
Okay, so let's break this. We're going to break this down for a second. Hungry, okay? The need for food.
Yes,
that one can be solved pretty quick.
Yes, it can.
Right, a Snickers bar. A prime example. I don't care if you're on a diet or not. Eat a Snickers bar, damn it. Mm-hmm. That one bar is not going to kill you, but that alcohol may that you go get to get rid of that. But, and even for folks who may be diabetic or something, there's something that can be done about hunger pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Angry. Let's think about that one. Okay.
That's not as quick and easy.
No, but AA does offer a really good program for that. Okay?
Did you say program?
Yeah, program. And number one, why am I angry? Okay, and these are things that in early recovery, I started to see about myself. I could ask myself a question about myself. Why am I angry? I'm really not going to ask myself, why am I hungry? Because, chances are I'm going to know no matter what. But why am I angry? What is the root source of that anger? Mm-hmm. Number one, can I do anything about it? Number two, is it any of my business? And number three, what do I do about what is making me angry? Okay. And, for a lot of, I guess I'm not one of those guys that get mad in traffic too much. I say too much because I'm sure there's somebody out there who's ridden with me right now that's listening to the show going, man,
sure.
This guy's full of blank, But for the most part, I don't really get too angry in traffic. But so that's the angry. There is something we can do about angry. Okay, hungry, angry, lonely. Okay.
Ooh.
What?
I think that's even harder. I dealt with like an incredible amount of loneliness in recovery, incredible amounts, and throughout my whole entire life. But I didn't know how to get past it. I didn't know how you just you're not lonely. And my sponsor suggested working the steps on it, and I did that about 5 or 6 years ago, and it changed my life.
I think you told us that before.
I have. I enjoy being alone now.
Yeah.
And I don't feel the need to have anyone. I mean, I have, of course, friends and people in my life, but I enjoy it.
Well, you remind me of a Kenny Chesney song. I mean, you don't remind me.
Okay, I was like, wait, what?
Called "Better Boat," Build a Better Boat. You ever heard it?
Oh, I remember when you.
That's and he talks about he spends a lot of time alone, but he ain't lonely or something like that.
Well, it took a long time for me to like myself.
That's where I was going with it.
Yeah.
That's
Love myself. I mean, it just, I thought I needed someone to complete me. I thought I needed this or that, and I don't.
Well, I agree.
Because with me, it was because I didn't want to be by myself with myself.
Oh,
It's like
it can be very
someone
scary.
can distract me.
Yes.
And now it's like, I can take that guy if I need
So
to.
we're still on lonely, but I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
Can you go to a restaurant and eat by yourself?
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I've done it my whole life.
Yeah. And guess what? Guess what? Nobody's grabbing shit off your plate when you do that.
So,
Except when Jill and I go to Nikki's for 2-for-1 enchiladas on Monday
That's not
night.
by yourself, man.
Well, I mean, it kind of.
Do y'all sit at separate tables?
Well, we might.
You dare each other to come sit with
Valentine's Day, many, many years ago in recovery, I was living in Monroe, and that's where I got sober. I lived there the first 7 years of my sobriety. I made a reservation for myself at the fanciest restaurant in town, and I sat by myself and had a steak dinner in front of the fireplace. And those,
Damn, Jill.
those servers, I will go
What restaurant was this?
I can't even remember anymore.
I like Cotton's over there.
Sage, it was
Yeah.
it was really good. And so I sat down, and even the waitress was like, "Oh, hey, hon." Like she was so sad that I'm like,
Jill's like, wait, my imaginary friend wants something to drink too. She'd like a steak.
and it's just something I've done. I was in sales.
Yeah.
So if you're in sales, like you're going to eat everywhere. So yes.
What about you, man?
I did the same thing. I was in sales for 10 years and I was on the road all the time. Dude, you eat when you can eat. It doesn't matter, people or not. That never bothered me.
I can entertain myself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even give that a thought really. A lot of times I'd just soon eat by myself,
I pretty much eat standing on the sales floor or over a sink when I get home.
Yeah.
Like so eating is not an event for me. Right. But for a lot of folks, it is.
Yeah.
They have family dinners and everything revolves around food. And it's just not like that for me. I just kind of do it because I have to do it to stay alive.
Yeah, I mean, when I don't have kids at the house, man, I don't worry about it. I snack on something or just don't even eat. So, but yeah.
Yeah, you have your kids every other week too.
Oh yeah. So
you can't be lonely with those over there.
No, not at all. Not at all. There's never a dull moment with that bunch. So, but yeah, I mean, I've gotten better about the alone thing. And I kind of like it, to be honest with you. I didn't at first, but I kind of like the being able to, just do my own thing.
There's a path to where this is going. Just so everybody knows, we're talking about relationships. We're talking about self-love, being able to love yourself, being able to forgive yourself, being okay with yourself, right? And the reason I want to talk about all this, because that might be a precursor of when it's time, you'll know when it's time to be with someone else, if that's even something you want, right?
Right.
Like I said before, you can eat in a restaurant and ain't nobody picking shit off your plate. Or, you can lay down in bed and not have to worry about anybody adjusting the thermostat. It could be whatever you want it to be, right? Mm-hmm. So, but, I think that for like if I had a sponsee and I was working with them, I would be like, hey, are you okay with you? Before we dive off into being okay with someone else.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
And that's if the sponsee asks me, because, some of these things they need to learn on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so the lonely part, that's why I ask about eating by yourself and, I can go to the movies by myself. People don't really, I don't go to the movies, period, like at all. But I probably spend 95% of my time by myself, and the other 5% is with y'all or at AA, right?
Right.
And then the rest of course, my real time is all spent mostly at work from early in the morning until late in the evening. But
the other person deal is weird because you're 100% right. You have to be okay on your own. And this has come up the last couple of years, and I don't know where I'm at. I don't know where I'm at with all that. If anything will ever I'll ever marry or do any of that kind of stuff. But it's kind of weird because I like it sometimes, the relationship part, but most of the time I just don't go fishing, and I just not even deal with it.
I'm with you on the fishing.
I mean, I would, or just work crazy hours, and I don't have to call and check with nobody, or hey, honey, I'm not going to be home. I just do it. I don't. It's a small business of one, so I can do what I want to do.
Well, a lot of folks too, that may be in our crowd of listeners they're thinking about them at the age they are now. I'm 51 years old. I got grandkids that are, one of them's fixing to be, one's 2 and one's fixing to be 6 here next month, a few weeks. I mean, there's more to life than just that whole thing, companionship thing.
Sure.
I mean, there's a kid there that I could go pick up, take to the movies, take,
Sure.
whatever you want to do. And that's a big part of life as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a relationship. Believe it or not, that is a relationship. The relationship with grandkids, the relationship with
friends.
Yeah.
Hey, and I have that, and I have a small circle, and my little circle is just solid as a rock, and I kind of keep it that way, and I don't have a lot of what's the word, checking in with all these quotation friends, all these people that are kind of acquaintances. But my little circle, I just keep it real small, and everybody's great, and I'm okay with that. And I'm like Mike, I got a grandbaby. He's just about a little over a year old, and we FaceTime, and he does all that funny stuff, and I love that,
Well, they start really making some jacked up faces at about that age.
Oh man, he's so funny, but that's cool. I enjoy that, but I enjoy if I go up to the farm and get on a tractor all day, I just go do it. I don't have to ask anybody, and I get a text, where are you at? And I'm like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. So, and I like that freedom of, which I was married for a long time. So, it's kind of a, just coming around thing, but,
yeah. I mean, for people that are listening, I never have been married. I haven't had many relationships, and I never have had children. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in recovery that have experienced the same thing, or maybe not a lot of people.
I bet it's about 50-50.
Probably.
50-50? I don't know. I mean,
just go with it.
That loneliness and me spinning out in self-pity, self-pity was almost, that's the main character defect that just basically almost killed me. And I was heavily into that for a long time in my recovery, just kind of, I feel like barely making it and thinking something was wrong with me. But like I said earlier, doing all the right things and learning to love myself has changed all of that. And so those are the huge things for me in recovery.
And, too, this is, and Jill kind of gave her background. I was married to somebody for a long, long time, and been divorced probably 3 years now or something. I don't even know. But yeah, you learn to go, the self-pity thing at first is kind of like, man, I've made this, and then you start to realize, well, this isn't that bad, and it's just, it's taken, I feel like I'm just kind of growing into that. Mm-hmm. But now on the same deal, Mike's talking to a sponsor about relationship type things. It kind of flipped the script for me. And it's like, if there's going to be one, these are the things that need to happen. And, for it to be even considered, yeah. And so I never did that before. And the thing is, I'm content either way. So I'm good. There's a lot of fish need catching, guys, and I can do it till I croak, and it's not going to bother me a bit. Yep. And I'm good with it. But if something comes along that's what, appears to be what it is and what would fit that guideline, then, I'm not going to, I feel like God does that either way.
Yeah.
So,
and you're right. I mean, I have cried for decades regarding all this stuff. I mean, many decades. And the thing is, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, I really don't.
Well, like this sounds bad, but like, oh yeah, by the way, if you're new in recovery, just lose the dating apps. Like, call me in private. I'll tell you the horror stories. Don't do that one.
So they lose the dating app.
The dating apps, yeah, there's a bunch of serial killers running around out there.
Well, yeah,
it's wild.
But he's not saying lose the apps because you're going to find someone at the clubhouse, right? He's saying because of the dangers of playing.
Yes,
them,
it's dangerous.
Guessing.
It's scary out there. So that's not the way to go. But
so what do you do, man? What do you like? Just hang a sign on the side of your truck?
Man, here's my plan. Okay, here's my master plan.
Yeah, let's hear
this. This is what my expectations. Okay, I'm gonna be on Lake Bistineau one day by myself fishing. And here's going to come this beautiful woman floating through the trees with her own boat.
Jesus, floating through the trees.
A job.
Did you just say? Did you just say floating?
Maybe
through
a
the
401k.
You didn't say if she's alive or not.
We fish in the trees over there.
This is totally delusional.
I think it's going to happen, guys.
She's going to float through the trees.
It's going to be a 12 out of 10. You know, so
I can't think of one single one that's going to live up to that expectation.
I did. Well, I'll not tell this one on. I was out there fishing one day, and I promise y'all, this woman comes by in a bikini, a thong bikini, on Lake Swampy Bistineau in a kayak. And I'm fishing, and I'm like, that's odd. That just came out of nowhere.
There she is.
She goes up to I'm up there putting my boat on the trailer later, and she's up there pulling her kayak in on the bank.
Yeah.
And so she comes over there and starts talking, and she's from like France or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
And then she waved, and I was like, oh, you are from France.
Bonsoir.
Yeah. And
you took her out and y'all ate French fries.
Man, it looked like she had buckwheat in a headlock when she waved at me. I said, there's the problem.
Like
so
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I was out. I was like, yeah, I'm out. So that did happen though. So it was scary. I was scared.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
But
First time.
There was the one the Lord sent you right there. Yeah. And you passed up on
that, and some Mach 3s would have been all right.
All right. So you got the tired part of that too.
Sure.
And so, we can't spend all day talking about lonely, but, actually we probably could, but because that seems to be an issue with a lot of folks, and it's not anything we're taking light on. The deal is, my suggestion would be to a sponsee, not to my audience, but my suggestion to a sponsee would be to spend as much time up at that clubhouse as you possibly can and find some friends that are in recovery. Because have you ever told somebody they couldn't hang out with you? I'm telling you, when I first got sober, there's a guy named Jay, and he was inviting me to 5K runs, and everybody wanted me to go do something with them. There was never a reason to be lonely is what I'm saying. But let's go back to tired, right? For me, whenever I find myself tired, it's generally because I'm trying to do too much, right? I'm trying to do the whole, 5-day, 7-day AA thing. I'm working, 12, 14-hour days. Now I'm driving back and forth a lot over here to take care of, business for whatever whatever I do, this podcast, but if I find myself tired, and usually sometimes I get home and I'm too tired to sleep.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of reading, and sometimes, especially if the book is good, it'll be the middle of the night, 2:00 in the morning, I'll look up and then I have to be up at 6, and then I find myself during the day tired, so there is a solution to that. Now I'm giving my personal experience, but I know what the solution is, and the solution to that is discipline. I need to have myself at home at a certain time. I need to go to bed at a certain time, and I need to limit myself in what I'm involved in. Now, if I'm new to recovery, I may just want to go to a meeting, go home, eat, go to bed.
Well, and for me, I slept my early recovery, just slept it away. There's a lot going on physiologically. When you were coming off drugs for the first couple of years, what we call post-acute withdrawals, and you will be fatigued. And I slept a lot. I've always been a big sleeper. I can only take so much interaction and being social before my,
nerves,
my body shuts down.
Yeah.
And so I require a lot of rest, a lot of recharging, and naps are important to me. Sleep is important. nothing messes with my sleep schedule.
Oh, I've noticed. I'm just messing.
I mean, I tell everybody, don't call me past 8.
We ain't doing no podcast today. Jill got to sleep.
Right. One day it's like, oh, yeah, I nap from 12 to 4 on the weekends or out.
Like I've been fighting this lately and a lot of stuff going on and not sleeping well. And what I'll do is when I'm exhausted, I fall asleep immediately and then wake up 2 hours later and I got 8 hours where I have to be at work or whatever. And I'm like, now what do? It's 1 o'clock in the morning and I can't go. I mean, and I'm exhausted, but my eyes pop wide open, brain going, and I'm up. And so, man, I mean, when I do that, now I just have a routine to go, we're going to do something positive, read a big book, read my Bible, work on work stuff, whatever it might be. But I get up and use it instead of laying there, watching YouTube videos or whatever,
Well, with all of those, all the halts, I get irritable, restless, and discontent.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important that I do something about it immediately. So I don't want to escape that being uncomfortable with something else.
And think about it. If you're always hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, or restless, irritable, discontent, if you've a high anxiety, if you've got all these things going all the time, why would you? I mean, being sober is not something that comes to mind. Now to my mind, I've been sober a while, so I'm thinking, to add to the problem, I've also got this, crashed life. But for a regular person, if you're not, if you're always feeling this kind of stuff, that might be a way out. Drinking.
Oh, absolutely.
A way out. I want to read something, and this is from the 12 and 12, right? And I didn't really get into the 12 and 12 until I moved down to South Louisiana. I was about 7.5 years sober. And every Tuesday night, they have a 12 and 12 study. And last I checked, they still do, right? So tonight's Tuesday? Today's Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. Well, yet last night, then, they probably had a 12 and 12 study. But this is out of the 12 and 12, and it says, AA has many single alcoholics who wish to marry and are in a position to do so. Some marry fellow AAs. How do they come out? On the whole, these marriages are very good ones. Their common suffering as drinkers, their common interest in AA, and spiritual things often enhance such unions. It is only where boy meets girl on AA campus and love follows at first sight that difficulties may develop. Meet them at first sight, difficult gap. You follow? Mm-hmm. Okay. The prospective partners need to be solid AAs, okay? Solid AAs. There's rule number 1. And long enough acquainted to know that their compatibility at spiritual, mental, and emotional levels is a fact and not wishful thinking.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, they need to be as sure as possible that no deep-lying emotional handicap in either will be likely to rise up under later pressures to cripple them. The considerations are equally true and important for the AAs who marry outside AA. With clear understanding and right grown-up attitudes, very happy results do follow. Right grown-up attitudes. Yeah, what's a grown-up attitude?
There's two takes on that. So I've dated, not married, but in the program and out of the program.
The program.
That was a good movie back in the day, by the way, the football team movie.
Sounds like a movie.
It is, the program. But that can go either way. It goes back to solid footing. If there is solid footing and that person does what they're, what we do every day. And then also you get, I guess, normal people, regular people, and they don't have a program. So they're not as used to, I guess we kind of have to full court press our stuff every day, and I don't think a lot of folks really put that much thought into it, issues that they may have. So it can be kind of go both ways, really.
Well, I mean, it does. I mean, because what I'm looking for is, like the same morals and principles and values that I've been taught. And they're just typically anybody or any religion will pretty much teach the same thing. So regardless of who it is, I just have a set of beliefs that I want to, to parallel.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or else it's not just won't work. And that's just period. And I think that's just like that with anybody.
That's and the reason I kind of wanted to get in to talk about that and all that is, you've got people new to AA. They hear don't date in the first year. We talked about this in another episode before of how you need to really get that special relationship with your higher power. Get that special relationship now. So later on, as your recovery matures, some of these things that we just talked about are gonna pop up, I guess. But I've had sponsees who genuinely just wanted that, and I had never read that, so I didn't know that was even in there, and that's a good reference source to say, hey, check it out. The problem is when you meet up, you hook up, and then you run off, then maybe, that may not work out too well.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Somebody won't come back to the club. Somebody's mad at somebody.
Yeah. Dating in recovery is hard, especially if there's the other person's in recovery. I've done that, and I fell in love. It didn't work out. I mean, it was just devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating. And I mean, like, it took a lot of work to go through to make it through all of that. A lot.
And that's
a lot
what
of meetings.
I don't think a lot of, sorry, Jill.
You good.
I don't think a lot of people consider the other person's recovery. You know what I mean? They don't think it that far ahead. Like, what if this goes bad? They're just, and then all of a sudden it's not a good deal to be around each other for whatever reason. Yeah. And you mess with someone's recovery as well as, the relationships.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see where that would not work out, and not only does it not work out, but you liable to force your group and dividing off into teams.
Sure. Sure.
Team A, here's this side team, and it's just a bunch of stuff that is,
And I have
conducive to
I'm not
recovery.
Gonna say who this is or where this is, but there's a person out of this area that I'm friends with. It's a lady, and she is in Alcoholics Anonymous. Uh-oh. No, it ain't nothing nasty, Mike.
I'm not.
Mike's making funny faces. Y'all can't. But
I was trying to guess.
But the group that she goes to, there's a lot of that with the adults, and this is a weird deal, and that's what they have constantly is bickering and
swapping or something.
No, like just so and so's going out with so and so, and then they dump that person, and now everybody's mad at one of them, and it's just an ongoing thing. And I'm like, hey, did y'all ever consider just not going out with each other? Like, there's only like 15 of y'all, and it just never occurs to them. So,
well, no matter what, people can love themselves. Sure. They can find forgiveness, because if they really do believe in a higher power, there's forgiveness there. And it may take some time. And, it may take an outside source too, Jill. It may take a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever, or heck, a grandma, someone to walk you through it. But, it may not be something you can get through on your own. But being able to forgive yourself and being able to, because that's where it starts, As far as whatever else happens, supposedly, we kind of leave everything into God's hands, right? Isn't that how it works? We kind of, step 3, turn our will in our life, our thoughts and our actions as best we can. So if we're really on that plane of it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen, these are the things that we can do on our end so that when it does happen, it's right. Right?
Yep.
Right.
I haven't had anything. So I don't do all that. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I don't have time. I just don't. But I have noticed that nothing came into my life before God was ready for it to. Right?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like when it came to
translates to he knew then you were ready for it.
Right. And I mean, and there was a couple times in my life where things work-wise were kind of overwhelming me. you know, and maybe I'm not this, and and you know, I just had to take patience and take time and sit back and then move into whatever it was that he had for me. Sure. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But it's a whole lot better than the pressure I put on myself saying, this is what I have to have. This is when I have to have it. And I can't even love myself doing that, you know?
Yeah.
I was talking at the noon meeting today, and somebody came in and told me that I would never be able to skydive again. I'd probably just go skydive to piss them off. And I've never skydove in my entire life. Don't even know the first thing about it. But, right, when someone tells me I can't do something, when I put limitations there, I immediately want to break them. Does that make sense?
I think they call that being an alcoholic, you know, because that's all I do is I'm a habitual line stepper, you know. I just step across the line.
That explains the line dancing lessons.
Well, I didn't want to get into my line dancing career, Mike, but
I saw a line dancing bill in the microwave, and I was trying to figure out what it was for. So.
But you know, that's, I mean, really though, that's all of us to some degree. It's like, tell us we can't do it, we're going to do it, you know? And that's what, if we ever get right and get ourselves on, you know, in a good, working a good program and doing right in life, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit.
Shit just happens when it's supposed to happen.
Sure.
Yep. You know, I want to touch on something before we close because we're about to wrap this one up. But in about 7 hours, Jill will have 14 years of recovery.
Come on.
Yeah.
Jill.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? 7 hours, Jill will be sober for 14 years.
That
all
really
in a
is.
row?
All in a row.
Weekends
Dang.
and holidays.
So if you took everything we said today, because Jill opened up today on the episode, right? If you take all that we said, she's still sober. 14, almost.
Almost. Don't get ahead of yourself.
6 hours and 59 minutes from now, she will be sober for 14 years.
That's wild.
Yeah, that is in itself. And I think we started doing this podcast at the beginning of May, if I'm not mistaken. So you had maybe 3 or 4 months into your 13th year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was how it worked. So we've almost spent a full circle on. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
3 more months, and we'll be doing podcasts for a year.
Wow,
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
3 more months.
3 more months.
Wow.
And we will have been podcasting for a year. If you think about this, 52 1 week. If we did one a week, that's 52 episodes in a week, and we have done actually about 40.
Yeah.
40 episodes,
which is,
and about 20 bonus episodes. So that's about 60.
Oh, okay.
There's only been 3 times we missed a week, you know, and that was due to
Ice storm.
Something was going on, but me going out of town or whatever it was. So we have gotten, you know, some really good stuff. And I used to try to announce a topic. I can't even do that anymore because just something happens during the time we don't record, and it'll make me think of a topic. Mm-hmm. And I really like that.
While we're talking about Jill, by the way, I went to one of our other clubs here in town, the Highland Club, last night, and Dickie, who shared her story, she's told her story on this podcast. She told it last night, and it was great. I mean, she just did a great job, and love seeing all the people that just come out. I mean, there was well over 100 people in there, and that's pretty dang awesome for a Tuesday night. So,
yeah, that is.
Yeah, but Dickie's just great. Well, I'm very proud of her. We all are. And she just, you know, you can just see the joy of life,
exudes.
you know? Yeah, yeah. And so anyway, very proud of her. She did great last night. So.
Well, always, I mean, Dickie's one of our regular listeners too, isn't she? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess that's going to wrap up another one. And I got a few analytics I was going to read to you guys. If I can pull my screen up here. Oh, I was, look at that. Okay, here we go. So we are now actually 32.7% of our podcasts are on Apple. We still got 66% on Spotify and 1.4 on other. So if that helps you. We got listeners in Ireland, the UK, Taiwan, Canada, Bulgaria, Australia, Denmark, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Colombia, and the Netherlands. And we had So far, 107 followers. Remember, I was asking for 3 and we got 10.
There you go.
Pretty cool.
There you
Pretty
go.
cool deal. So we're up to 107 followers, 1,900 Spotify impressions. Our average audience size is 44, and we have had 3,525 plays. So those episodes I was talking about a while ago, they've been played that many times, almost as many times as you've been played, Matt.
That's nice. Boom, boom. Actually, it's not even close.
Wait, hold up.
Where's my button? Where's my button? I don't know where my button is. So that was a good one, though. There's a button on here called a rim shot. I think that's it. Let's see. That's it.
There you go.
Almost as many times as you've been played, Matt. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, anyway, from Rule 62 Studios in Bossier, Louisiana, this has been The Grouch and the Brainstorm.